can all join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for showing up. Yeah. It was hard because like this practice, Buddhist practice is it's really difficult. And it's incredibly life-changing if you do it. Anyone ever been really hungry? And you ever had somebody just like place food in front of you and you can't eat it? What's that like? Go ahead, you could out loud.
Torture.
Say again?
Torture.
Torture. I thought I heard that mumble. I just didn't want to repeat torture without somebody else saying it first. It's like torture. It's like, here's the food to take away hunger. And then, well, should I eat it? Should I not eat it? Is it prepared the way I want it to? Do I believe in the person who made the food? What country is it from? What language was it made in when they were, preparing it? Like all this stuff. When you're hungry, you just eat. Right? Buddhist practice is the same thing. Just eat. In Buddhist teachings, they talk about it being the medicine for healing. And I use the same. That was actually the first time I've ever used that metaphor about eating. That kind of worked, right? Yeah? I don't know. You're on the wrong side. Did you hear my talk on Saturday about everybody picking their seats? I won't digress to that, but you're a little bit out of place right now because you're supposed to be sitting right over there. Somebody was in your seat, weren't they? We had this whole thing on Saturday morning about someone who was in someone else's seat.
Mixing it up.
Mixing it up. All right, it's on your own. But usually I use the metaphor of like when you have a headache and there's Advil on your shelf, you don't just stare at the Advil, you take it. It gets rid of the headache. Well, Buddhist practice, Buddhist teaching is the same thing. And when we begin to really understand that and integrate some of these things into our lives, then your life begins to change. And as your life begins to change, then more things open up. And you see things differently. And then you address those, you work through those with practice, and then more things open up and you work through those. But if you just stay stuck and an observer of this practice, then you're always just going to be like the person staring at food when you're hungry. And that is, Dennis, torture. Right? So work on putting this stuff into your life. I mean, I say this over and over and over again, but from my lens, I see so many people suffering and struggling. I mean, we all do, but I'm just saying from my lens of being in this place for so long, I see so many people suffering and struggling. And very often, many of them, it's like literally the exact same thing that they're struggling with. I mean, it's completely different. The examples are completely different, but the process for working through and healing that pain is exactly the same. The process for getting through it and coming out on the other side healthier is exactly the same. But people have so much resistance to it because we want to defend what we've built up our whole lives. It's our way of, doing things. So I always want to just kind of remind people that if the way you've been doing things your whole life to find peace and happiness was working, right on cue, right? You'd be somewhere else on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. So don't be afraid to open up to the fact and idea that, like, wait, hold on, wait a minute. Maybe I'm just completely wrong. Maybe all the kind of little tools I put in place aren't working. Maybe I should try different ones. And some of them I'm sure are working, and those that aren't working, stick with them, don't abandon them. But try to look at them honestly and don't attach to them just because they're things that you put in your life as ways to deal with things, right? We want to be very, very honest with ourselves about that. And that's sometimes very difficult to do. So, all right, so with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. To those who are joining virtually, welcome. Nice to see you all. Feel free as you are just to say hello or anything, not anything, but say hello. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin the meditation practice. Nothing's going to happen to you. Right? You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. I mean, you don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice of learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps. Slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten, shoulders are relaxed. Same thing if you're on a bench or a chair, just try to sit up straight. Feet are flat on the ground. You want to be upright, not just kind of sinking into your normal position. Most important, especially if you're new, don't expect anything. You're not trying to shut off your mind. You're not trying to empty your mind. You're just going to sit and breathe. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, again, do not expect anything. And starting with your eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgment from the practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Breathing in. Hollow breath in. Breathing out. Follow breath out. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, Slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day, for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and all the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than anyone in this room, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It is a training of the mind. And training the mind is probably the most difficult thing you'll ever have to do. Training is not easy. But it's also the most important. It is direct perception into the present moment. It is not an escape from reality, which is very often how many people come to meditation or Buddhist practice, because they're trying to escape from something. And this reminds us day in and day out that it is direct perception into each moment as it arises. And that's why it's so difficult, because very often we don't like each moment as it arises. So of course we've conditioned ourselves to seek, crave, and desire something to turn to run to. And the Buddha was saying very clearly that each moment is an illusion based on your perception of reality. And when you begin to see that all you're living is just some story in your head, it helps you understand why you're suffering. Waking up to present moment is incredibly difficult because we resist it. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting. It's breathing. Becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in every moment. And that never changes. Day in and day out, this is the practice. For those of you who have known me for years, I've been saying and leading the same thing for years and years and years. And it will never change. Because this practice is hard enough as it is. You know, and for me, I guess I just see what this has the potential to do for individuals who suffer if they slowly work on it. You know, one thing is I think, point of practice, which I often like to suggest is, if you look at the simple teachings of the paramitas, the 6 paramitas, the word paramita means perfection, doesn't mean being perfect, but it's working on these practices: generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. So we're going to play a game here. I want everybody to close their eyes. I'll do this as well. Wait, well, yeah, I guess you can close them now. That's fine. And I'm going to say the 6. Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. Which one of these 6 is the most difficult for you? Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. Which one is the most difficult for you? All right, we can all open our eyes or you'll fall back asleep. Did you all come up with your 1? Great. That's your homework for the next week. Work on that. Whichever one it was. I mean, if we're, really being honest with ourselves, we struggle in all 6. So, you can't really choose. There's no wrong choice, right? And if you think you don't struggle with any of those, then I think you should probably focus on morality this week. Which is, the honesty we have towards self, others. But these practices, like that's it. Just take one of them and work on it for a week. Who wants to share what they struggle, or which one came to mind and why?
I couldn't choose, so I chose concentration.
You say you couldn't choose, so you chose concentration? Yeah. That's great. That's funny. Yeah, a little scattered.
Yeah.
Or a lot scattered.
Always.
Yeah. Concentration. Great. Yeah, go ahead.
Patience.
Patience.
Yeah, just when I work with people, sometimes I want it on my timeline, or why don't, this clicked for me then, why is it not? And I just have to remind myself, we're all on our own timeline, our own path.
You mean the world doesn't do things how and when you want them to?
Yeah.
Really?
Self-grasping.
You're the only one in this room with that problem. I'm sorry. Yeah. What else? Thanks for sharing. Who else wants to share the one that jumped out to them? Go ahead, Jared.
Patience as well, and I've definitely been working on it for the few months I've been coming here. It's been, put in my face as something that's definitely needs to be worked on.
Yeah. Do you see changes?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely moments of times where I'm getting better.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Yeah. That's great. And even I was struggling to find the right word, because I don't, as you've heard me say, I don't like to look at improvements or getting better at. I came up with change, but I think awareness maybe is really important, not just the awareness of how patience is playing out in your life, but also awareness, like full-on awareness of when you're lacking patience.
Yeah.
That's really the first step, right? I mean, you can see, like you said, I think did you say flashes of it or glimpses of it, or did I just make that word up?
Moments.
Moments of it, there you go. Moments, which is definitely more
Moments of
than
clarity.
flashes or glimpses,
Yeah,
so. But it's beautiful to see moments of patience occurring in our lives. It's also beautiful to see the moments where we lack patience and kind of catch ourselves, because that catching it is the first step, that awareness of it. When we are completely oblivious to it and we think that like, well, I'm patient. I don't want to pay attention to my lack of patience. I'm fine. I don't have time to pay attention to my lack of patience, right? But that awareness of it is super critical. That's a good step. Really important. What else? Who wants to share what popped up and why?
Yeah, another one, patience, right? It's brand new. But mine's related to control. It flips into control too, because being patient about not having control over certain situations and things like that in my life. I like to control my life because I want to feel protected from any harm or feeling feelings, right? And you talked about awareness and things like that. In recovery, I talked to my sponsor today. It's all about the awareness. And then, first of all, admitting the issues that I have and being aware of what's going on is a huge step, right? But it kind of all plays it together.
Yeah. I'm just spinning in my head how much I want to mess with you or how much I want to leave you alone.
Go for it.
When you cross the street, are you processing or pondering how much control you have at that moment, or are you just walking across the street?
Just walking across the street.
Right. You realize you could get hit by a car,
In that situation, yeah.
and yet you aren't attempting to control it.
No.
You're just walking. Just live. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That's the practice day in and day out. And I mean, everything you said, especially, since you threw out there talking with sponsor, I don't want to like, I want to respect that dynamic, that relationship, because that's critical. But, not an addict myself, so I can never relate to the addiction of anything in that regard. Having worked in that environment for 25 years, I feel I'm about as close to it as I can be without actually knowing what it's like, if that makes sense. So I say this from that lens, is to understand that I understand the craving and desire to have control for protection, but this idea of protection is an illusion. That's why I gave that example of, we don't feel like we're concerned about control crossing the street, but someone could come flying around the corner. We don't know. So ultimately, we're never in control. I don't know if you've heard me say this, but there's this meme that I love. And it's somebody sitting on a beach and, beach chairs there and sunset's happening, and there's some, a little fruity drink, non-alcoholic, of course, with a little umbrella in it. And up top it says, relax, nothing is under control. And my master, she used to say, practice expecting nothing from nobody. Do not expect anything from anyone ever. And then you have complete control. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Did you want to share? Yeah, I thought, did you have your
I
hand?
did.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah.
For me, it was diligent, and I think it was diligent and concentration, which comes actually but diligent more because I think sometimes I just keep going and doing things and I just never really stop and make sure I cross my T's, dot my I's. So I think that was a big one that I like, because that's often how I just make mistakes.
Sure. So if I hear what you're saying that you're diligent, but being mindful and aware of what you're doing when you're doing it. Yeah. We had somebody years ago, and they were talking about, right, effort and diligence, really very similar, if not the same thing. And they were saying that, if you're in like Poway and you get on the, I guess you wouldn't get on the 15, you wouldn't get on the 5, you get on the 15 from Poway, right? And you wanted to get to Los Angeles and you start going south. You can be as diligent as you want, but if you keep going south, you're not going to end up in LA. Right? So yeah, it's really, diligence is great, but without some mindfulness and awareness and wisdom, we just become these machines going through the motion of doing stuff. And at the end of the day, we're just like, what did I even do? So this idea of we've accomplished a lot, meaning like we've checked all our boxes and all our tasks are done. But were we even present with them? Or was it just a race just to get a bunch of stuff done? Just things to explore. Yeah. So I think from there, I'll just open up. Oh, were you gonna share? Yeah.
I was gonna say diligence as well. And she spoke to the part of dotting I's, crossing T's. And then sitting there thinking about it a little bit more, I thought I struggle with that as well. And I feel that sometimes I need to give myself a break, reminding myself that I'm only human and that I cannot do this task perfectly. I can be as diligent as I can try. And I think that helps me release some of the pressure of said tasks throughout the day. Sure, I'll mess up, but at least we kind of did some of them and
Yeah. I mean, the reminder that you're just human, I think, is critical for all of us. We probably, many of us, if not all of us, at different points in stages of our lives, we get into those moments of just trying to get so much done. And I think that that's where, again, the last of the parmitas is the wisdom. And so applying wisdom to the diligence is kind of what you're saying, that I'm just human, gonna make mistakes, doing the best I can. And it's going to be different for everybody, but always just kind of checking in with yourself and saying, okay, I'm getting a lot done, I have a lot to do, very busy, but am I mentally and emotionally healthy and sound and okay while I'm doing it? I think that's always a really key thing to check in with as we go through our, 400
grind.
50 things to do each day, like, am I okay in each moment? And you can even ask yourself that, it's just that kind of moment of just pause for a deep breath and say, am I okay right now? And then start whatever you're doing. I mean, many of us, we start early and it just goes nonstop all day long, Yeah. Thanks. You're welcome to continue, or I was just going to open up to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything's on your mind, and we'll use the rest of our brief time tonight. And for those who are joining virtually, welcome. Again, there's a chat box somewhere on your screen, so if you have questions or anything you want to share, please feel free to put it in there. Jody shared diligence is hard because self-doubt creeps in. Yeah, well, the Buddha took care of that and said there is no self, so you don't have to worry about that. So there's no self to doubt, so Jody, you're good to go. And Sean also agreed with Jody. I'm working on concentration so I can be more present in others' lives. Yeah, it's I think that's something that many people struggle with, is our inability to stay focused and present. Is a big reason why we're we often struggle in our interactions with people. Because as you're in that interaction with somebody, your mind's really just so scattered that you're not even paying attention to, the person. Like, it's like the person you're talking to or talking with, and they're speaking back, and all of a sudden you don't even hear them. I've never done that where like someone's talking to you and you're just like, they do it all the time. You see it in the movies where it's just like that wah, wah, wah going on in their head and you don't even know what they're saying. Because you're so just ready to shout back or say back what you want to say. So yeah, concentration really does help with, your interaction with others. So thoughts, questions on that or anything really? Just kind of open up for the rest of our time today. Yeah.
So you mentioned the 6 paramitas and everyone chose one, and yet no one chose generosity, but the world can certainly use more generosity. So I just want you to touch on what that truly means.
Yeah, it's funny because it is the root cause of suffering according to Buddhist teachings. For those who don't know, right? First noble truth: life is suffering. It doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means we're going to struggle a lot. Most people at this stage of their lives have realized that. The second noble truth is the cause. The cause of our suffering is greed, anger, and ignorance, referred to as the 3 poisons. You often hear attachment, craving, desire, but it's all really based in greed, anger, and ignorance. And the first one being greed, the way to overcome greed is with generosity. So yes, it is ironic that the number one thing to practice to overcome suffering is generosity. But if you ask yourselves that question, let's see, I'm not going to do this. I was going to say, even if we went back through and picked out each thing that every person said, or just ask yourself what you were thinking. What you were thinking, was it just replied to everything about you and your life? Of course. And this alone is why we suffer. Because we make life all about us. Now I get it, most people didn't show up here wanting to make sure life is better for everyone else. But if you did, suffering would cease to exist. But what we often do is we make it all about us first. I want to heal me, I want to fix me, I want to solve all my problems, I'm going to heal all my 50 years of trauma. And once I get done with that, then I'll make time for everybody else. The first thing is generosity. That's the practice. And when we think of giving, the Buddha taught very clearly the greatest gift is the gift of the Dharma. And I don't mean like a book with the word Dharma on it. The Dharma is the teachings of the Buddha. It also doesn't mean like giving a Dharma talk. Giving the Dharma means living your life with generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. All these kind of things you hear in Buddhist circles about how to be. That's the greatest gift. Imagine if you never lied to anybody. The other one, nobody ever, you've heard me say this joke for years, but the old Buddha free location, the sign on the wall, on the window said free meditation, right? And so twice a week, we packed that place with people because it was free meditation. Now, if that sign said free morality practice, not too many people would show up for that class. Free honesty class, no, I'm good. I want to lie. I want to treat people like crap, but I want to be peaceful while I'm doing it. That's the approach so many people take. And that's the reason so many people still suffer. Give honesty. Give patience. Give morality. Give compassion. Give these things. And that plays out in simple ways in your life, you know, it can be a smile, it can be a hug, it can be whatever it may be. It could be just listening to somebody. So many ways to give. So, thanks. Other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
I have a question, like, in conjunction to that. So I guess, how do you balance, like, giving, like, for your clients, for example, because you need to do things for them, versus, like, that's kind of taking away from, like, genuine giving to people like you love and the people who might actually be suffering?
Yeah, I mean, so your question is, how do you balance giving to like your clients? Because, well, I don't think you gave a reason. You just said giving to your clients as opposed to giving to people that you actually love, right?
Yeah, like, cause one's like considered work, right? We all know what work is. And then the other one's actually like genuine and feels good because you're not, I guess there's no expectation from you. So,
What if they were the same thing?
I was like,
Huh?
I'm like, how?
Begin to see the people you're referring to as your clients equally as important as those you know and love. Begin to see these people as more than just a transaction. Again, I'm not, I don't know any details. I don't want to know details. So this is for everybody. But begin to see people that are your clients or what customers or whatever they may be, not as transactions, but as people who are suffering and need love. And then it's the same thing. Now this also, and I'm not going to get into this right now, but it also gets into right livelihood, where we ask ourselves, how are we sustaining ourselves, right? How do we earn an income? How do we spend our day? All those kinds of things. But once we drop the duality, and again, Buddhist teaching is a lot about this dualistic mind, this versus that, right versus wrong, good versus bad, me versus you. Once you drop all that and you see humans, suffering, and we drop the story of, well, this is just a customer. This is my loved one. And if we can see them as the same, then it's great. Might even get more customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, take it
But-
back, like,
Go ahead.
make it more simple, basically.
Yeah, the problem is that when we do this with people, do this with so many things in their lives, is we build stories around these people versus those people. Well, these people are over here and those people are over here. And so these people I'm going to treat this way and those people I'm going to treat this way. That's where the problem begins. These people come with a backstory. These people don't. These people, I'm just going to serve them pizza, and these people, I'm going to, listen to their life story. Just be present with people. And that's the beginner's mind practice. It should just engage with people as if you've never met them before. But that's really hard when you've been telling yourself the same story about them for 20 years. Yeah.
I want to build on what she said and kind of build on what you said by saying, I have done that and tried that in my own personal business. And what it has done is created that balance that the client realizes that you're a human as well, and that you need to take human time to take care of your humans. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to say yes, just because I liked what you said.
These clients, these clients get treated a special way.
Yeah.
So they allow me to say, okay, well, I need to go and treat these people this way as well. So
Yes.
it actually has allowed for more time.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
And it's working out.
Yeah, and I think that when, as business owners or any sort of working dynamic, any sort of situation that requires, I keep just going back to like a transactional type situation, I think that's just the healthy, wise, compassionate way to be. And whatever can come of that can be really beautiful, you know? What can also come of that, which was not where you took it, I actually initially thought you were going to go that way. I thought you were going to say that you've done that and then it gets met with resistance and that then you don't get back what you were giving out. But I'm glad you didn't say that. But that may also happen, is that we can treat customers or, you know, people we work with, clients, whatever you want to call them, with this love and compassion and kindness, but then it's not reciprocated back.
But that's not
I think
your
sometimes
problem.
Say again?
It's not your problem. if
Thank you
don't
very much.
reciprocate.
And I heard something over here too.
what happens when they're sucking you dry? I mean, when you have that person that you really care about, and you
Yeah.
don't care about all of them, but they're sucking the life
Yeah.
out of you.
Well, I'm going to say this very cautiously. They are not doing anything to
You're
you.
allowing it,
You're allowing it.
but it's hard.
Oh, I never said any of this was easy. There was no sign that said Buddhist practice, this is easy.
And it's
Probably get more
all
people
setting
here. You'd
limits.
get a lot more people.
Setting limits are hard.
Say that last part again.
Setting limits are hard.
Setting limits are hard, setting boundaries are hard, absolutely. And it's something that I think you want to, it's important to watch yourself, right? There's the metaphor of on the airplane, the oxygen mask falls, and what does it tell you to do? Put on yourself first and then the child. So yes, there is a balance. And in me sharing what I'm saying, for those who maybe are newer to sitting with me, I'm not suggesting that we completely, even with the quick little comment about there being no self, so don't worry about it. I'm not suggesting that we ignore our own suffering. And we have to know what's our limit, how much can we take? We have to be aware of that and find that balance. But it's also important to understand that nobody else is doing anything to you. At least in the way I'm hearing your example, you are allowing that to occur. And when I say allowing it to occur, you're allowing yourself to suffer because of it occurring. You cannot control other people's actions towards you. You can only control your reaction to their action towards you. So if they are doing lots of things that are draining you and you can't handle it, then you step away. Or just stay there and complain. Because that's what most people do. And not only do they complain, then they drag everybody else into it while they're complaining. And then they relive it over and over and over again. And then 30 years pass. And there you are, still complaining. Still reliving the same stuff over and over and over again. Still telling yourself the same stories, blaming the same people, using the same excuses. This practice is not easy, you know? Yeah. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. We'll do one last question, thought, before we close. Yeah.
What if there were no more boundary lines and unity was a real thing?
What was that last part?
And unity was a real thing.
What if there were no more boundary lines and unity was a real thing? Is that what you're saying?
Like completely, like all over the world. Like
I mean, it sounds great.
it's a little bit of a philosophical question, really, but
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great. So Buddhist practice, the essence of the Buddhist teachings is exactly that.
because that's what I was kind of getting out of the six.
Yeah,
I'll put them all together. That is unity within not only yourself, but for
absolutely. Yeah. And that's what this practice is really about. I mean, it really is a rebellious a lot of scholars went out to really look at the life of the Buddha, really referred to him, and he was just a prince, he was just some dude. And he left all that to live the life of a simple, homeless, wandering monk. And the things he did at that time were very rebellious. But it was based in, when we think of rebellious, I know myself as a rebellious kid, there was nothing good coming out of that, right? But if all of your rebellious actions were based in generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom, you could live with ultimate peace and happiness. And if every single person did that, and every person shared that, it'd be beautiful.
I like that idea.
I like that idea too. Yeah, thanks. So, all right, so we'll close with that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. So a few quick announcements before you all head out. Our Dharma Bum host, Eddie, will share with us all.
Hello, everyone. I am tonight's host, Eddie. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 16 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice with others. Almost every night, we have different classes led by various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone battling addiction. And our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 5 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We also have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you're done. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again soon.
And one last announcement, thanks Eddie. Email newsletter went out today for the second Engaged Buddhist Training Program. Will start May 27th. It's an 8-week program. All the info's on the website or newsletter, and then the application's there. But it's an 8-week program. It meets Saturdays from 2 to 5. And then a second time a week, you'll do 2 hours of community service at whatever day and time and place works for you. So you'll be with a group of about 18 people. Love them or hate them, it's the group you're going to be stuck with for 8 weeks. So choose wisely. But that starts May 27th. It'll run for 8 weeks. So thanks all.
Thank you, Jerry. Should we take?